Welcome, my 374 subs, everyone who finally feels that Tony Khan has stopped cramming feuds that will end up on the pay-per-view, everyone who's dropped the notion that AEW doesn't tell stories because they do, and everyone who thinks those stories are a bit subpar. Welcome to my review of AEW Dynamite for the April 19th show. Let's begin. So the ratings drop again, and honestly the matches don't help very much. They're passable, but there's nothing incredible that would help retain you. This was a more story-focused Dynamite. They opened the show with a promo, and for me the overall story would have been good if executed better. Because this first segment, which went up against the NBA playoffs, is very channel change inducing. Because 1/3 of the pillars that start it absolutely dropped the ball with some terrible points made. And the other two were just okay, and as usual, MJF had to carry the whole segment. In promos, he's the ring general. He's the play caller, he sets everything up, while the rest need good partners. So Darby opens his promo strong, but he then flubs some lines, like he just mumbles, and he lost the crowd real fast. Against Sammy, we get the obvious points, like he's being held back by Jericho, like the usual song and dance with Sammy. And then when we get to Jungle Boy, we get some new information about a work shoot California clique, which isn't really a thing anymore. SCU are pretty much out, and a lot of them aren't on TV anymore. And that just propagates the shitty narrative about the elite. It helps nobody, and it's not a great point by Darby. Like, so what? You do what you have to do to get ahead in this world. Okay. Upon further reflection, two of the pillars let the segment down. The next one, that's worse than Darby, was Jungle Boy. My god. First of all, the delivery was pretty weak. Darby's delivery was so much better than his. And as for Jungle Boy's points, the one made against Darby was the cringiest out of everyone. Because he says he doesn't really want to be a wrestler. He's just here because he's a failed skateboarder. Like, what kind of point is that? Skateboarding isn't big anymore. We don't get Tony Hawk's or Bam Margera's, Chad Muskas. I forget who were in the games, but yeah. The people in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It's not in anymore. I don't see people in my country skateboarding. It's pretty much just a niche hobby at this point. That's a lot more niche than wrestling. So Darby made the right choice. This was a stupid point. Next is the one towards Sammy. He tries MJF's thing of like lifting people up and then knocking him down. But the knocking them down part was just a cheap induction of a swear chant by the crowd. I mean, good job getting the crowd reaction. But what point did you make? Thankfully, this gets the crowd back into the segment and sets up Sammy's best performance comparatively compared to both of them. He had the best delivery, a bit of slippage, but not very noticeable. He puts over Darby, and then he buries AEW for the glass ceilings that were put on them. That's a WWE thing. You don't do that, but I guess it's pretty acceptable. It's like pretty true. Sammy delivered a great promo, but there is a ceiling to what crowd reaction Sammy can get. He still has the heat. People still think of him as a scumbag. He's still a heel, by the way. So crowd reaction was a bit limited. Someone else had to have this good of a promo in this segment, even if it's not like mind-blowing. And then thankfully MJF shows up, and it really shows how much he is carrying the feud. The crowd popped for him, and then he has to insult Britt Baker to like bring them back down. And then we have the strangest directions that this story could go. It's obviously a misdirect, and I'll explain why later, but MJF announces a Pillars tournament where one of them gets a bye, and the two have to fight a match in order to face the person that gets the bye next week on Dynamite. Why not just have singles matches between each of them? Have one beat the other who's unable to beat another, and then just like do like a food chain thing. Have like a rock, paper, scissors sort of mechanic. And that should be able to propel everyone to the pay-per-view. But yeah, they have to go this convoluted route. But it's obviously going to end with the match next week ending up as a draw. And then Tony Khan commandeering the ship and then turning it into a four-way. Because there's no way that a singles match between MJF and any of the pillars, maybe Darby is the one who is Like, if you had to choose, if the two got injured, Darby versus MJF would be the most pay-per-view worthy, but with the other two, it's just not, even with MJF there. So it has to be a four-way to justify it being the main event. And looking at the feuds going on in the company, this Double or Nothing looks like it's being built on a lot of multi-man matches. I expect the second hottest feud, like the one with the Elite versus the BCC, that's gonna be a 4v4 or 5v5. Unless you take one out and then have like separate tag matches, have a singles match between one permutation. But the more this feud goes on, it's starting to look like 5v5, 4v4. You have the AEW title story, which is pretty much guaranteed, four-way. The people who are pretty much incapable of having bad matches are locked in. Someone else has to step up, or you just put Vikingo in the card. Like, that would be the easiest solution to all of this. But yeah, maybe Jay White versus Ricky Starks can happen, and that'll tear the house down, but I don't know. Cole versus Jericho, I don't know if that'll slap, but we'll see as I talk about the show. So yeah, after this is Jamie and Britt versus the Outcasts. So finally, a big match in this feud that has been going in circles. It's been pretty much holding things back. They're pairing up the B team of the AEW originals to go up against the Outcasts. The B team always loses, and Britt and Jamie have to run in for the save. And now finally, we have a match between the main players of the feud. So I love the matching gear of the Outcasts, the neon green. It weirdly suits all of them. Doctor is in the house, gets a loud pop from the home crowd. The match starts from the get-go at the outside, entrance ramp. They fight all over the place. And then when they get back in the ring, Outcast tried to double team Jamie Hayter, but it doesn't work. Jamie's booked really strong, like even stronger than Britt. She destroys the shit out of the Outcasts. And that's how it should be. Because based on this performance from Britt, it looks like she's regressed. She's so much slower, a lot more Divas awkwardness. It's not like before. While we have Jamie here, who's basically from Stardom, who moves like the Stardom girls. But something weird here would be, why didn't Britt just go inside? Since Ruby and Tony, breaking the tag rules, they both go at Jamie, but Britt is just standing there. I mean, it puts Jamie over in the end, but you don't know what's gonna happen. So why not go inside and help your partner? Bit of a derp moment from Britt, but Jamie also has one later on in the match, and that one is way worse. And yeah, back to Jamie. She was booked so strong that she destroys all of the Outcasts. And there's even this part where she chases down Saraya. And then Saraya plays the best coward I've seen in a long time in the company. She's so much better as a heel and was amazing as heel manager. And just her managerial dialogue and the way she makes those stupid comments, it's so good. Saraya is doing amazing as a manager. Hopefully she gets in better in-ring shape. So yeah, this is number 3 spot where Saraya is chased by Jamie. And then she like yells all over the place. It was so fucking good. Like actually, the heel work as a whole by the Outcast was so good. Tony, I didn't quite notice, but Ruby, the way she trash talks Britt's family and then almost gets hit by a towel, but then she like draws back. So good. Yeah, Tony also did some heel work here. I think it was from the apron. But yeah, really good dynamic in the match for the Outcasts. This is the best match that they've had in AEW, like as a team. And it's not hard to find the reason why. The ring cutting doesn't get boring because of the said heel work. And when Britt gets hot tagged in, she's a bit rusty. I think it's the lack of reps. She hasn't really had that much matches since last year. It's been all Jamie. So come on, Britt needs some reps. Put her on Dark, put her on the house show against capable opponents, not Anna Jay. But she's made to look good when Jamie joins in. Like, when they do this, like, I think it's the number 1 spot, where they do this teamwork, Britt and Jamie sort of pass around one of the Outcasts. It flows much better, it looks better, and no Divas awkwardness when Britt works with Jamie. And it leads to a pin breakup where Jamie's pushed on the pin. Britt poorly sells this Ruby move where she like propels Britt's head using her legs on the turnbuckle. Like she doesn't even sell with impact, she just touches the turnbuckle. But then Tony makes her eat her ass. The best hip attack in the game. But the stupidest spot in the match happens when Tony just runs at Jamie. Like, Jamie can see her. She just chooses not to. And then Tony goes down, pulls her off of the corner and then throws her a bit too hard at the steps that leads to maybe a real life injury for Jamie, which is a disaster. She's your best woman in the division, and you lose her in this stupid spot. Worst spot in the match, and I'm gonna deduct some points from this. The finish was pretty fun though, and it had shades of past Brit, because it's like a Daisuke Sasaki-esque. Ruby kicks out of the pin, and then immediate transition to a lockjaw for the win. This is number 2 spot of the match. So after the match, Jamie is apparently injured. She's brought out much quicker, and then Britt follows her outside. A lot of things really good in the match, but also a lot of stupid shit that might have ruined your women's division. Jamie Hayter can be injured. So yeah, this could have been higher. I think it's TV undercard, pay-per-view opener. I had fun, but just the stupid spots. And Britt Baker's rust. So yeah, after this is the Wardlow promo. And he's alright. He gets his point across, but the main point here is Arn Anderson, the guy who's going to accompany him later on. This is long-term storytelling from when QT betrayed Arn. Wardlow sounds very ordinary with his promo. He sounds very human, and that's so inferior compared to the promo that Arn cut, which flows better. It bounces off each word. It's a lot better to listen to than Wardlow. So yeah, if you're wondering why Wardlow is stuck in the TNT title scene, maybe this is it. Even if I myself want to book him in the main event. Just because it's the anniversary. So yeah. After this is the Elite segment. And this is no question, best segment of the night. Kenny Omega and the Bucks walk to the ring with all of the swagger, with the entrance. He's rocking this Akira Toriyama shirt, the author of Dragon Ball Z. It's a highly overrated but very nostalgic anime or manga that decreases in value as you get older. But as a kid, go ahead. Go read and watch Dragon Ball Z. It's very easy to understand, it's easy to get into, and the characters look cool, so yeah. Kenny's promo is really good. Very underrated on the mic. When he goes serious, you believe it. Like, how do people think this guy's a bad promo? It's just a simple call out, but the delivery is really good. He knows what words to use to connect to each other. He doesn't stutter, he's assertive. Man, Kenny Omega needs to get back in the title scene. So he calls out BCC, but instead Bryan Danielson shows up on the Titantron, cutting his very bad promo style, where he has to reiterate everything someone else said. Just like in the MJF feud, just like watch Danielson's promo before that final one after the match. It's all summarizing what people say about him. I hate that promo style so much. He just has to hammer it in. But here it works because it's a distraction. He doesn't even get to finish it. Mox, Claudio, and Wheeler attack the Elite. They have an awesome 3v3 fight, and I love this brawl so much. It sets up Claudio and Nick Jackson, as well as reignites Kenny and Mox. Wheeler and Matt Jackson also face off like the two most pinnable people in the factions. Hopefully we get a match, but Matt Jackson, for the love of God, needs to have a win. Let's remember that the Elite are made out of Kenny Omega, main eventer, and 2 tag team wrestlers, so basically mid-carders who are like a main event team put together. Individually they're weak, together they're strong. Against Jon Moxley, who's main event talent, former world champion, Claudio Castagnoli, the current ROH champion, main event level talent, and then Wheeler Yuta, who's just below the Bucks a bit. So the Young Bucks have to work together to hurt Claudio. We get all the outside dives from Nick Jackson and then 2 super kicks that launches Claudio outside. Matt Jackson's Northern Lights suplexes did not look appropriate for the moment. Like in a blood feud, you wouldn't do this. Or if you don't have your opponent's momentum going up against you, you don't do this. But come on, it's a cool move. Matt Jackson's arm gets worked since he has that partially torn tricep, and they close it off with a gut wrench powerbomb to Nick Jackson. Kenny and Mox have the most basic feud, but they have the most crowd interaction since Kenny throws Mox at, I think, Britt's family. So yeah, the BCC end up winning in the end. Danielson shows up. He calls the Elite amateurs. He focuses on Kenny, but thankfully it's not like the nails on chalkboard amateurs promo from that one week. And it makes sense that the BCC won since they have 2 main eventers. The Elite have only 1, so with nobody left. Don Callis, looking for payback from that huge gash that was I think accidentally inflicted, but they played it off as real. He comes in with a chair and then Danielson just laughs at him. What are you doing here? What are you even doing? And then he like runs away. Like honestly, what the hell could Don Callis do? It's like having Yajirobe from Dragon Ball Z going in to help Goku. So with Don Callis out of the way, Danielson sets Kenny Omega to be screwed in the ring. But Don Callis comes out again, dragging an unaware Konosuke Takeshita, who has the most aloof, unaware, or like this expression that you don't even have to hear the guy talk. It's like it's registered in your brain as someone going, huh? But then he switches on. He's pretty much Broly. Yeah, he's pretty much Broly from the pre-Super days. He just switches on and then destroys everyone, but does not touch Bryan Danielson. Consistency in the storytelling. They were friends. They were allies against MJF. Mox and Claudio beat him in matches. I think when Mox was champion, like that was an eliminator match. And then against Claudio in Battle of the Belts for the ROH title. And then Wheeler, they haven't met each other, so yeah, just like beat his ass. And then he doesn't touch Danielson. They make them retreat and the Elite are saved. So yeah, does anyone actually think that Konosuke won't backstab the Elite? He didn't attack Danielson. I think that's an indicator that he can be swayed. Because if you have Takeshita with the Elite, it's already 4v4. Where does Hangman Page come in? You can bring in CM Punk to the BCC, but does he really suit the BCC? His character is more cool than it is like savage or sadistic. So I don't think CM Punk's joining BCC. Miro would be awesome, but I don't know if there's a place for him right now. If he were to show up, he would have shown up much earlier. So I think Konosuke, 3 weeks before the pay-per-view, or as early as next week, when we have the first encounter between the Elite and BCC, Konosuke is gonna help him win. The connection with Danielson is too strong, and he becomes the 5th member, who just like jumps over Wheeler. Poor Wheeler. I don't want that to happen. So I'm kind of hoping that Miro's the one who joins in. For the sake of Wheeler Yuta. They already have a young guy. Adding Konosuke there would just be terrible for young Wheeler. But this is the most likely way this is gonna go. So yeah, my prediction is Konosuke joins BCC. Hangman is begrudgingly accepted by Kenny Omega back to the Elite, so it's 4v5. And then Kota Ibushi finally comes in. Golden Lovers reunited, 5v5 at Double or Nothing. It's gonna be so sick. But I wish one of these guys could have been used in a 1v1 instead. So yeah, segment of the night so far, hottest feud in the company by a mile. It's called All Elite Wrestling for a reason, and there's no way that Tony should let any of the Elite leave. They're too valuable. So yeah, after this, Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs for the TNT Championship. Why do we even have this match here? Why hasn't Wardlow moved up yet to the world title division? He's fought, defended, won the title enough already. He didn't need to go up against Hobbs anymore. And Hobbs, you need to establish him. He was doing great as TNT champion. He could cut promos, he could wrestle. He doesn't mesh quite well with QTV, so why not just drop that and give Hobbs a proper feud? You could have inserted Jungle Boy here. You could have inserted Darby Allin. Also Mark Briscoe, anyone. But you just had to go with Wardlow again. I like what happens after the match, who Wardlow is going to face at Double or Nothing, but having Hobbs lose again was just such a bad decision. It buries him. It stunts his momentum. How the hell do you have this happen? Now he's not going to show up until maybe after the pay-per-view. He's a villain that's been slain and won't show up till like maybe 2 months or something. But I think this match is pretty fun, and people on Cage Match are rating this too low. It was a wild brawl. They go outside, they hit each other, they slap meat for meat amongst the crowd. And then when they get back in the ring, big man slapping meat, and then they do dives. Frog splash for Hobbs, swanton for Wardlow. They didn't go for enough power moves, and they could have went a bit faster, but I think they did just enough. I think the outside interferences really help with this one, because we get like a manager seduction distraction where Harley Cameron, I think that's what her name is, she distracts Wardlow, it works, and then he gets spine busted for a near fall. 2 spot, maybe I'll place the diving attacks, and then number 1 is the best outside interference, and it's Arn's Glock. Arn Anderson goes in the ring, stories full circle. He points the Glock at QT, QT leaves. Into the loving super kick of Penta. He staggers way back into the ring, and then Arn delivers such a good DDT. He might still have it. The finish is a Hobbs roll-up that's countered into a pop-up powerbomb. We get the symphony, 3 powerbombs, Wardlow wins. This match was really fun, and it doesn't really have anything that terrible that ruins it like in the last match. So maybe TV undercard, pay-per-view undercard. I don't like the decision to have Wardlow win. He should be beyond this title now. But I guess hometown hero gets the win, gets the title, and then Hobbs gets buried. Maybe we'll see him in Dark Elevation, who knows. Man deserved a longer run with that title. But I like the direction of having Luchasaurus and Christian face off against Wardlow. It's Wardlow and Arn, but Wardlow should really cut the promos here, since we have Christian versus Dude with Dead Father. And I found this really good Simpsons meme from one of the best wrestling pages on Facebook. So yeah, check them out. And yeah, I really like this because Luchasaurus is much more capable in the ring. He's a lot quicker. He's basically a juniors wrestler, a luchador, who has the body of a heavyweight. And the matches he's going to have with Wardlow is going to be insane. I'm so looking forward to it, as long as Christian isn't the one wrestling. It has to be Luchasaurus. So yeah, after this is Sammy Guevara's encounter with MJF. And it's basically MJF manipulating Sammy, and it's like a twist on what MJF usually does. But now he does it with a person in the feud, so it's different. And he doesn't have that much control, because this one is pretty much a wrench thrown into the story. I think it makes sense that the heel teams up with the heel at some point, but it should be because Sammy knows what he's doing. And it did look like that by the end of this segment, because MJF gives him a blank check, and then when Sammy writes down his price, MJF reacts comically. The best acting. He accepts and they're now friends. Come on. Sammy knows what he's doing. He gets a free win, he gets money, and then he can choose to betray MJF, just like what he did with Jericho at... I forgot the name of the pay-per-view. At Full Gear, yeah. That was at Full Gear, not at Ring of Honor. I love this dynamic so much. And I love the intrigue in this. I love that MJF doesn't have full control of the situation. But eventually, I think how this will lead to a 4-way will be MJF achieving his goals with this tournament. I think some multi-layered shenanigans are going to happen next week. So yeah, after this is Jay White versus Komander. And this was an odd pairing because I don't know if I've seen Jay wrestle against an incredibly fast spot monkey wrestler. Because come on guys, let's be honest. Komander's pretty much a spot monkey. All he does are springboard moves, are outside dives, are basically dives. And Jay's here to play Kenny Omega's role against Vikingo and just ground the match down. He brings the stiffness into the match. He is Purores, if that's how you say it, and Komander's Lucha. Purores ends up winning again, but Lucha has a pretty good showing. So the story of the match is Jay trying to ground Komander down. He disrupts Komander's offense by going after the ropes, but eventually he's unable to contain him, and he eats the usual dives we see from Komander. Really cool dives, but they're getting a bit repetitive if you do them every match. Like I say, I hope we get some Samurai del Sol, Rey Mysterio type of just non-springboard or diving moves. Just like some luchador exchanges. Jay White in the match I think was really good. We see an expansion of his moveset in the finish, and that his chops are just so stiff. It's like he was made for this. I'm very impressed that I wasn't bored with the Jay White match. And the heel work with him and Juice Robinson is just the best. They just yell at poor Komander. But the main purpose of the match is actually to reintroduce Shawn Spears, who I think is there to put Jay White over, to avoid Ricky Starks getting pinned, but at the pay-per-view. Let's be honest, Starks is getting pinned. Jay White is so beyond him in his career that I think it's okay to pin Ricky Starks. If it's Starks versus Juice at the pay-per-view and then we have Jay White against Shawn Spears, I will be so disappointed. But how he plays into the match is that he rates Jay's moves. He rates them low to the dismay of poor Komander, who gets chopped even harder. This is how you reintroduce this dude back, but he's probably going to lose the feud, so yeah. Glad he's getting some TV time though. And also the selling by Jay White, like with this one move here. When he gets, I think, kicked off of the top turnbuckle, and then he takes a bump face first on the top rope and then falls over. So good. I think being in AEW is actually helping because the style is a lot faster. It's not slow and plodding like in New Japan. And the matches that matter, not those multi-mans. So number 3 spot of the match is a suplex neck breaker by Jay White to Komander on the apron. This looks so fucking dangerous. And I think Jay White's been unleashed. Number 2 spot is the chops that's rated by Sean Spears. And then number 1 is the finish, where Komander goes for this elevated abdominal stretch. He's cutthroat suplexed and then Blade Runnered for the win. This match is so much better than the people at Cage Match are giving it credit for, and I'm gonna give it the rating it deserves. TV main event, pay-per-view undercard. It's not epic enough. I think this could have gone better. Komander's moves are getting repetitive, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Maybe the worst part of this is Komander's like multiple jumps thing, but a lot of other wrestlers do this. Undertaker did this. Starks does this. It's the stupid old school move. I've always hated it. Then here with Komander, it's like a lot cooler since it ends with the Hurricane Rana, but the whole like dynamic of how it works, the whole pathophysiology and how this all works, the rationale, it's so stupid. So yeah, after the match, Sean Spears attacks Juice. He gets double teamed by Bullet Club. Ricky Starks goes for the save, and we finally get some progression to the feud. That's actually good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this feud. Hopefully they bring in the rest of Bullet Club, but honestly with Jay White and Juice Robinson, it's enough. We have enough multi-mans for the pay-per-view. So yeah. So after this is FTR and Triple J fighting over Mark Briscoe. So awesome. Mark Briscoe is in AEW still. He's not limited to Ring of Honor. And he's a main character in this feud. He still has the sympathy from everyone and everyone loves him. Except maybe Samoa Joe, who he didn't shake the hand of. But yeah, neither here nor there. That feud is pretty much over for now. But I like that he is bringing teams together. He's bringing FTR and Triple J together. He's bringing a face team and a heel team and making them cooperate for Rampage. How that'll go, I don't know. But this leads to an uneasy alliance where they take on the Trustbusters of all people. And we all know how that's going to end. We are just there to watch the implosion between this team and maybe FTR hurting Mark Briscoe. That leads to more twists and more depth to the storyline. So after this is Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho. Their encounter and what happens after that? Okay, so this starts off really good. Chris Jericho is at his finest. Starting shit with Cole, he's the oblivious hypocrite. He accuses Cole of disrespecting him in the same fashion that he disrespected Cole. He's playing a talent vampire on screen, and he's working fans to believe that he actually doesn't put people over. He does put people over hard, like Action Andretti, Ricky Starks, like over and over again. And now with Adam Cole. Because there is no way that he's winning this fucking feud. Like for me, the real problem with Jericho is his in-ring. It's deteriorated, and he's pretty much like a slow, not totally immobile dude. He still has enough left in the tank, but it's like draining. Maybe he needs to change his style a bit, or if he really wants to, he can speed up. But yeah, he looks a lot better than Christopher Daniels in the ring, so take that as you will. The promo exchange was very basic. It's just Jericho's a hypocrite. Adam Cole points it out. Simple story. We get a fight in the ring and then Cole is quickly outnumbered by the JAS. So here's where the questions start. Where's Keith Lee? They're in an alliance. He shows up on a video package on Rampage. Why isn't he out? Why does Britt Baker have to be the one that saves Cole? I mean, I like the blending in of stories. They're all meeting up at this one point. Some stronger than others. This one between Cole and Jericho definitely not being the best. But yeah, where's Keith? Where are the moguls? A lot of questions here. And then they go for this like berserk scene. Or like just a scene where you have two lovers. One of them is getting tortured in front of the other. It's a really good idea, I think. Cole brings his acting chops. But the problem is Saraya's kendo shots. It should have been harder. She should have laid into Britt. Like who cares if there's bruising? It's supposed to be convincing, and it wasn't. Like, even in the WWE, it wasn't. They did this the best back then in the WWF, but that got a bit too real. But much better and much safer, ironically, in ECW. when Sandman caned the shit out of Tommy Dreamer. That's how it should have been like. But if you pair up Adam Cole's pretty good acting with the unconvincing cane shots, this got a bit silly. This was funnier than it should be. This would look good in a video package, but in real time, pretty trash. This was terrible. And speaking of terrible, the next match, the Acclaimed versus JAS. Oh, the lost potential with this one. Oh my god, like I had a lot of hopes with like two of the best promo teams in the entire company, but they do nothing with it. It's just JAS trying to recruit more members, and even if like the previous segments were funny, I like the segments where the Acclaimed were trying to cut off Daddy Magic's nipples. That was really funny. That was the peak of this feud. But this match was terrible. It's just like so run-of-the-mill. It should have been a Rampage match. It would have been rated higher if it was there. But they did nothing special. Like the only thing good about this was the finish where Daddy Ass destroys Angel's comb, and then he's pinned for the win by the Acclaimed. Don't even watch this. This was a non-entity for this show. And finally for the main event, we have Sammy Guevara versus Jungle Boy. So this was rated as the best match of this show. And I have to disagree. I enjoyed the Jay White match more, but this was pretty good too. This is number 2. So yeah, this match starts out fast and furious because these two don't spend time in the ring like at all in the first half. They just do outside dives and outside launches. I thought I was watching Komander versus Vikingo again, actually. They were trying to elevate each other to the main event in one night. I don't think they succeeded, since that's impossible, but they showed us what they can do and what they can add to that Double or Nothing main event. And it's looking really promising. Like, in ring, they're there, but as a whole package, not yet. So they have this journey around the crowd, like pretty much where Hobbs and Wardlow went to last time, but with a lot more crowd interaction. Because they each take turns laying their opponent on like this girl's lap and then doing chops. They made this worth the fans' money. Jungle Boy high-fives a kid, he plays with a sign and then hits Sammy with it. And those of you who are calling for disqualification, this is just a piece of cardboard. It's not a steel chair, it's nothing. But then this is when the match starts going downhill. The slowdown doesn't make sense. It was just there artificially. They just did that rest hold spot just to rest, and like just for the sake of having one, where we've had these show stealers before and it was just non-stop. And I like non-stop show stealers, but that has to be coupled with selling, and they don't sell enough. There's this one sequence where they get up right away from bombs, just like hard moves. That would have been really cool if they took more time, and I don't usually say that. But these were finisher level moves. The strike fights that are present in like every indie match in the late 2010s were pretty good, but they weren't placed at the right time. It feels like they just had it to have it. Spots of the match. Number 3 is the jumping knee, I think, by Sammy Guevara, as Jack Perry's going for like a diving attack on the apron. This was really cool looking. Number 2 is the backdrop that switched to a DDT. That looks so cool, but the crowd did not care for it. This crowd could go to hell. But that dude from the Long Island crowd is right at the 9th circle. And the number 1 spot is the diving destroyer. This was like the best spot of the night. And a lot of people hate the finish. I think this is perfect, actually. It protects Jungle Boy's claim to the title match alive. Since he wasn't pinned, we don't get much countouts, so this was pretty shocking. And like just the way they do it. A drop kick off the top turnbuckle, and then Jack goes face first on the table. He's counted up to 8, and as he's moving into the ring, Sammy distracts Bryce, and then MJF hits Jungle Boy with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And since the ref didn't see Jungle Boy get in the ring, he counts to 10. So like 9, 10, Jungle Boy gets counted out. This was genius. I fucking love this finish. But the match itself, not very much. It's a TV undercard, pay-per-view undercard. Just the placement of some of the moves, man. Just a bit weird. The post-match was pretty funny because MJF and Sammy celebrate comedically in like various poses. And yeah, that's how we end the show. So this episode of Dynamite for me was not as bad as that one where like just nothing went right. And it's another one with Wardlow and Hobbs. God, that title is booked poorly, but thankfully Luchasaurus is here. Save us all to give us a good match. But yeah, for me, this episode was just average. We don't have any segment that blows anyone away. The Elite segment was good, but it wasn't landscape changing like what MJF usually does. Eyes, who's what. There also wasn't any god-awful segments. Cole and Jericho was bad, but it was like not too bad. Adam Cole still did some pretty good acting, and I like the direction the story's going, so it's okay. Matches, there's one terrible one. And yeah, matches aren't very strong this week. But aside from that piece of shit, the rest were okay. And that's more than what I can say like when watching an absolutely off night for Impact. Like when that happens, matches are just unwatchable. Or like just WWE Raw back in 2016. Or SmackDown, even worse. But yeah, glad they have their shit together. Triple H does. As well as Impact. So yeah, hopefully AEW get their shit together. Come on. You were supposed to be the chosen one. AEW. Cut this shit.